Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Utah and Rocky Mountain Railroad operations. We're in the Moscow division. The time in the simulator is looks like 8:36 in the evening. In basically 3.5 hours, we will be clearing out of Moscow and making our way to the Riggins division. And that will be basically our next operating day at that point. And with that said, if you remember from the last episode, this train that we're looking at pulled into the Moscow yard. So our first task is to get the engine off to be serviced, and then we're going to take our locomotive and break these cars down and get them organized into the yard so that we can dispatch trains. Now you might be saying, why does it need to be serviced? It looks like it's loaded with coal. Well, if we look at our commodities, you'll see that it actually needs some coal and it needs some water. And so this is just an issue with the model itself. And this model locomotive is from K&L Trainz. I don't know if they've fixed it or anything, so I could go out on their site and see if I can update it. But anyway, with that said, we're just going to ignore the big heaping pile of coal there. And what we're going to do now is let's get this train moved, or the locomotive. Let's get it moved over to the servicing area. And despite all its flaws, I still like this locomotive. And I see that we have a train over here. We saw that train down in the Kendrick area. Oh, okay. Here we go. Here's a little bit better shot of the train. I wonder if there's a problem with that caboose. And it's not working. And I noticed the light doesn't turn on when you reverse, so there's no sense in doing that. So we'll just live with it. We've got our coal. So now it's time to come over here to the water spout and get ourselves some water. Okay, now we've got plenty of coal, plenty of water. Okay, let's get over here. And I think what we want is this one. Off we go. Let's get this train broken down. And then once we're done with that, if our train from Kendrick that we were working on in the last episode hasn't gotten itself up here to Moscow, we'll go check the status of it. Because that'll also be another train that we're going to need to break apart into the yard. And that one works. Okay, so let's get it coupled here and we'll start working these cars. Okay, let's get our tags up and see what we're going to do here. Alright, so these cars are all going to Riggins. And then we have some Grangeville. And a bunch more for Riggins. We'll have to check this one. I think that's going to Riggins also. We'll just group it as Riggins. And then these back here are Moscow, and then we have a couple more Riggins and Moscow. So I think what we want to do is let's pull these cars so that we gather our Riggins cars and get them into the yard. So they are going to go up here. Helene Spokane. Here's our first Riggins track. Okay, so let's watch these. Oh, before we do that, let's make sure we have a clear track all the way down. That's good. And that's good. Okay. Our time is 10 minutes to 9 o'clock. We'll keep the Grangeville cars with the Riggins because to get to Riggins, we're going to have to pass Grangeville. So we'll just consider it as part of the Riggins group. And we're going to stop the string when we get to our first Moscow cars. We'll go park the Riggins string into the yard, and then we'll move the Moscow cars and get the remaining Riggins. We basically know these are all Riggins cars. Okay, so we're coming back here. So we're gonna make sure that's thrown, that's thrown, that's thrown, and that's thrown. Stop the cars right about there. Okay, so now we need to take a look at our cars here. So we have Moscow, and then we have some more Riggins, and then the rest of the train is Moscow. Okay, so what we'll do is let's pull this up and make it so we can deliver the Riggin cars over to the Riggins track, and that'll group all our Moscow cars together, and we will then deliver those with the other Moscow cars. I hear our other train, so let's stop what we're doing here because I want to control his entrance. We told him to come onto this track, so we want to control that because I don't want him to go all the way up. We're going to stop the train when the last car gets to about there. Okay, so this flat car here is the last of the Riggins cars. So we are going to disconnect, and our train's going to pull forward, and then we're going to push him out onto the Riggins storage track in the yard. And then we're going to... I was on the wrong train. The nerve! Nice. Unbelievable. Okay. So while the crew gets some rest, we're going to go ahead and move these cars over with the remaining Moscow cars. And then we're going to go grab the cars off the freight train that came up from Kendrick that we worked on in the last episode and get those cars into the yard. And the time is 8 minutes past 9 o'clock. Now, what we want to do, before we bring our train in here, let's find our other Moscow cars. So we have Coeur d'Alene cars. This is all Moscow here. So this is where we're going to put the Moscow cars. If we have any Spokane cars on this train, we'll just group them with the Coeur d'Alene, because in order to get to Spokane, you have to pass Coeur d'Alene. So it makes sense to me. Brakeman does his thing. Now we're going to push these back. Looks like we've got enough room. Okay, now we're going to come down and we're going to take care of this train that we put together down in Kendrick. We'll get these cars in and then we will assess what happens next. Okay, so now let's go ahead and get these cars disconnected from our locomotives. Nice. I forgot to throw the switch. And that was such a great shot. Sorry about that. Let's try that again. Okay, there we go. Let's see how this time works. Okay, we're going to stop the cars here at this signal, and then we'll look at the tags to see where they're going, and that will determine how we sort them into the yard. Once we have this group done, we'll get the cabooses together and park them, and then our diesel locomotives will come in and go over to the servicing area where they can refuel and get whatever maintenance items they need done. Okay, so let's take a look and see what we have. Okay, so we have on the end here Julietta. Well, these need to be, oh, I see. These are empties. Okay, so let's get these classified. So I'm going to jump into Surveyor, and you get to see how this is done. So this is these are empties. If we show our commodities, yeah, so they're all set to show us what's going on. So these cars in the back are all empty. This is empty. And then we have some loaded cars here. These are empty. And these here are empty. And so with that said, we can start figuring out where these go. Yeah, let's see. I think I'm going to send the empties up. No, actually, let's send these. Let's see. I'm trying to think of where these could go. Let's overall, let's send these down to Riggins. They can be part of the train that we're putting together down there. This is going to Riggins. This is going to Riggins. Yeah. And these two are going to Riggins, so we might as well send him down to Riggins also. Okay, so these cars will all go down to Riggins. And then these cars here, we're going to send up to Spokane, I think. Let's go like this. Spokane. Seattle. And this will be NP for the railroad. Copy. That's where this is going. These are headed down to Riggins. And then, of course, we have the caboose. Okay, so we've got our train classified now. And these are all going to Riggins. Let's see if I want to change that, because the only Riggins track we have is this. It looks pretty full. So we could use this track here, which is labeled for Boise. But, you know, Coeur d'Alene, we only have like 2 cars. Let's change these. and send these empties up to Coeur d'Alene. That way, we have we have room in the yard. Nice. And then these here, let's send these up. This goes to Spokane. And then we have these Riggins cars here. Kind of have to have those. That's where the product is going. So we'll keep those. And then this is Spokane. These are all going to Spokane. And then these. So we have 4 cars that are going to go up to Riggins. And the rest here. Okay, I think we can live with that. And we will, what we'll do is put the overflow Riggins over on this track here, since we don't have any Boise cars. So with that said, let's go ahead and get these cars pushed in here. So these cars are going to go right here. Throw up our names. Anything going to Coeur d'Alene or Spokane, we will be putting on this track. And we'll stop the cars right about, let's put them right about here. Okay, so we have 2 Riggins cars. And then we have some Spokane cars. So I think what we're gonna do, we're gonna kind of leave the cars over here so that we can get all the Spokane cars on the track. Okay, so now this is ultimately where they're headed, but I'm not going to back them all the way up there yet. There we go. Brakeman does his thing. We push these cars in. It's right about there. And then the remaining cars are all Riggins. And then we'll park our cabooses. And we don't need the tags since we know everything's in this string is going over to Riggins. Okay, we're going to move the cabooses down a little bit. And the crews will be taking their rest. And we're going to get these locomotives pulled in for servicing. Okay, we're on the other side of the train here. The time is 9:35 in the evening. Okay, we're going to pass the danger. Okay, and I think that is where we're going to leave things for this episode. We had a lot of activity. We broke 2 trains down into the yard. In our next episode, we will be looking into dispatching possibly the train headed to Coeur d'Alene and points west of there. And we'll take a look at the Moscow string of cars. We should, before our midnight deadline, go up to our industries here in Moscow and pick up any cars that are bound for Riggins. And before we let the Coeur d'Alene train out of here, maybe we should start with the Moscow activities so that we can make sure that we have all the cars for the Coeur d'Alene train, and we of course have all the cars for anything going down to Riggins. If you like this type of content, I highly encourage you to subscribe to the channel. Your subscription is free, and it helps to make sure that this type of content remains on YouTube. You can help us grow the audience by liking the episode. Please leave your comments and suggestions. And if you'd like to be notified when the next episode is coming out, hit the bell and make your selections from the menu that appears. I have an update for you. Over the weekend, we made our 100 subscriber milestone. So a big shout out to the latest subscribers who helped us pull that off, and thank you for all our subscribers for supporting this channel. We do appreciate you, and we appreciate your help in growing this channel. And with that, we'll see you on the next one.